Hi everybody, I'm Jamie Levi and I am a Math TOSA in Summit School District and I belong to the Summit County Education Association. And I'm teaching, don't forget the M, because for a long time I taught at a STEM IB school. I felt like we were just, doing these STEM challenges and trying to build rockets and doing all these things, and oftentimes we didn't make time for the math and we didn't take the time to collect the data and use math authentically and take it into math block and take it back to the science block. And so I really think that it is a good strategy for enhancing your students' math abilities to take it across to something authentic. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that right now. Basically, in education right now, everybody's talking about rigor and grit and engagement and all these buzzwords. And basically, being able to pull the math out of science or an engineering challenge is going to really get kids engaged in what they're learning. It's going to get them to have a point of need where they really need to know the measurement system or why you would use the metric system versus the U.S. customary. STEM, the idea with STEM is that you're teaching transdisciplinary. You are taking science concepts into math, and you're combining math concepts with engineering concepts. And so, I think a lot of times we get into our silos, and so anything we can do to take curriculum across the subject areas is going to be more bang for your buck. So I will be, during the course of this class, I will be talking about transdisciplinary teaching. And all that means is that, you're not just doing science in science time, and it's not tied with technology, or it's not tied to your engineering challenge that you're doing. You want them to all be tied together. You want your math to be tied together. I do believe that, math, a good mathematical progression is necessary in a math block, but I also think it can go back and forth, and you're going to get more investment. If you're adding 3-digit numbers, why couldn't you use the data that you have in science to create those problems? Because the kids are already super invested in that. They just did, their materials for their rocket, and this is how much their materials are, and they're super invested in that because they worked really hard on it. And so why not use that in your math class is kind of what I'm talking about. So yeah, transdisciplinary teaching and learning we're going to be talking about a bit, because that's the premise of STEM, and I think math is the one that gets left out the most. And so how can we pull that in a little bit more? This class is also going to be about enhancing your mathematical teaching practices in your classroom, but also taking it across subject areas. So there's going to be a lot in here where we're referring to this awesome book, Principles to Action. And it really is, it's written by the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. I probably said that wrong. And so we're going to be using that a lot to guide our work. The first thing I kind of want to talk to you about, why teach transdisciplinarily and how. I'm going to ask you to send me an email with a couple of questions that you have, and you might have questions about a few of the things that I'm bringing up. Teaching transdisciplinarily is going to enhance kids' thinking skills, right? You want to be a thinker in math class. You want to be a thinker in whatever design challenge you're doing for engineering. You want to be a thinker in science. And so you want to really exacerbate or enhance those thinking skills. And by tying it all together, it's really going to invest them in that process. The other thing that I want you guys to be thinking about is that, the next generation science standards, one of their actual science and engineering practices is to use, sorry, I have to look it up, is to use mathematical computation and mathematical thinking. Like, that's one of their practices. So if science is saying that math has to, that they should be used authentically together, then we should be doing that as well. The other thing is our new science standards are coming out this year. The board just has to approve them, but they are based off of next generation science standards, and those science standards say these are your cross-cutting concepts. Teach conceptually. You know, patterns can go across. There are patterns in designing. There are patterns in our number system. There are patterns in weather patterns and lots of things in science. And so how can you use that to tie your curriculum across? I think that's just the basics of what I wanted to kind of impart in my video and just kind of get you thinking about. I'm not a perfect public speaker, so I'm just taking a risk doing this. Hopefully this will spark more questions. But one of the things I want you to be thinking about is, in order to be the best teacher that you can be, actually, this was what I was going to do. I was going to read you a little passage out of here, is that we all need to enhance our own mathematical skills and our math understanding. And it's okay to say, I don't understand this and I need to learn this better. As an elementary math teacher, I had to do that. I'm still doing that. And so in this book, one of the things it says is, the teaching of mathematics is complex. It requires teachers to have a deep understanding of the mathematical knowledge that they are expected to teach, and a clear view of how student learning of that mathematics develops and progresses across grades. And so a lot of this class is going to be, you know, enhancing your practice, teaching transdisciplinarily, and then also growing your own comfort with math for two reasons. One, because we want you to be comfortable, but two is, when you're doing something in science or engineering, it might not be what your teacher manual says. And so you have to be ready with the math. And so your comfort of knowing what comes before and what comes after. If you're working with this kid and he needs this skill right now, I call that point of need. If he needs this skill right now, this is the time to teach him about exponents. If in the same group working on this science project that they're super invested on, this kid, he's still working on making tens. So how can you bring in unitizing and, you know, enhance his math fluency right there on the spot while he needs it? And so I call that point of need. And if they're so invested in a science project or an engineering challenge, that point of need can't be missed because it's not in your textbook. We need to enhance our abilities to teach math. So go ahead and email me any questions you have, and hopefully this wasn't totally off base and kind of focusing in on what we're going to do.